Welcome to the Father on Purpose podcast, featuring author and ministry leader Kent Evans and business executive and military veteran Lawson Brown. This is a show for you, Dad. You want to be a godly and intentional father. Unfortunately, you've turned to these two knuckleheads for help. Let us know how that works out for you. Before we begin, remember this: you are not a father on accident. So go be a father on purpose. Please welcome your hosts, Kent and Lawson.
Lawson, years ago, I was at a men's conference and I heard a guy who actually happens to be the father of our preacher, Kyle Eidelman. His dad, Ken Eidelman, was asked a question about budgeting for the family. And the way he answered it never left me. And it's probably been, I'm trying to think, maybe 15 years, could be 20, is quite a while ago.
You mean just general budgeting?
Well, I can't remember the exact question, but here's basically the essence of his answer. I think the question centered around allocation of family money. Like what do we do with, how much do you spend on this or how much do you spend on that? Mm-hmm. And Ken said, one thing I always did is I prioritized family vacations. He goes, if you have to decide between upgrading your refrigerator or going on a family trip, go on the family trip. Mm-hmm. And I just remember that the way he put it was so visual for me. And he said, there's no replacement for the bonding and the memories that are created when you spend uninterrupted days together on some kind of a trip. And so it never left me. And I am day one back from a week-long family vacation. So you and I decided,
great timing.
You and I decided we should probably talk about this concept as it relates to being a godly dad. But before we do, I want to remind the dad listening, if you're wondering how you're doing as a dad and you wonder kind of where you are on the dad road, we're all on it somewhere. None of us have reached a perfect dad, destination. We're all still in process, right? We're on the manhood journey, as it were, trying to be fathers on purpose. And if you are, and you'd like some help, we built, with the help of several pastors and really smart individuals, we built a survey tool called the Godly Father Assessment, or the Godly Dad Quiz. And you can take this 28-question quiz absolutely for free at our website. You'll see a big button for it. Just go to manhoodjourney.org and you'll see a big button for that. So you can take the Godly Dad Quiz. It'll tell you where you are on the godly dad journey. And then it drops you into some results that give you some ideas for what you can do next as a dad. So if you want to know where you are as a dad right now and where you should go next, go take the Godly Father Assessment at manhoodjourney.org.
I have a question for you on that. I did it a long time ago, and the journey has continued and the roads have, hit a couple of intersections, that sort of thing. Is that something that people take more than once?
Yeah, I would love for them to, because those 2 point in time assessments are things that if you reached out to us, we could actually give those back to you. Like if you didn't save it, we have it all kind of in some big giant database somewhere. We could save those 2 data points and give them back to you so you can see change over time.
Yeah,
sure,
okay.
Why not? It'd be amazing.
That's interesting. Okay, cool. I love that thing. Yeah,
so,
dads,
Lawson,
go check it out.
I'm going to talk a little bit about, during today's episode, a recent trip that we went on as a family, but it's a bit of an oversized trip. And what I mean by that is we don't do this every year. We don't do this all that often, but as our kids graduate from high school, we try to find a really meaningful trip that we can go on as a family. And so this is our third child to graduate from high school, Jonathan. And he wanted to go to a big city and experience some things like that. So we went to New York City for about a week. Just so happens, at the time of recording this, that my niece and nephew also live in New York City. And so we were able to see them. So it was a family component, but we spent.
Did y'all drive?
No, we flew. I spend my whole life on my Amazon Delta Sky Miles card. Mm-hmm. And about every, 12 to 18 months, I accrue enough points through just paying my normal grocery bills and stuff.
Yeah.
That we end up with, 6 or 7 or 8 free plane tickets.
Cool.
And so that's what we did. We booked these direct flights, went from Louisville to LaGuardia, and had a really fun, very jam-packed week in New York. And I would estimate we walked one day, we walked about 11 miles one day. And then that was probably our high day, but it was probably an average of 8 to 9 every other day. So I'll bet you in 6 days or so, we walked about 50 miles, 60 miles maybe. And even our little man, Titus, who's 8 years old, man, he kept up with us.
Yeah.
In fact, he didn't actually keep up with us. He normally was a few steps ahead of us.
Like yeah, he has energy. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. We're in Central Park and he's running up these 40-foot rocks and then running down them. And I'm like, bro. Yeah. And so we kept having the one arm's length away from us conversation, because like that works on a rock in Central Park. What
does that mean?
Well, we wanted him an arm's length away. Like we didn't want him to leave us.
Because
yeah. You get too far away in a big city.
I thought you were saying he was too close. Like, hey, back up.
Well, there were moments.
Quit jumping on me.
There were moments. Now I know there's a dad listening to this who's on board and fired up. I also know there's probably a dad listening to this who's going, wait a minute. What are you talking about vacation for? Bro, I can barely pay my mortgage. The car's in debt and it just broke down. And the financial pressure of some guys may not be at a place where some big elaborate, family vacation is on the table economically. And so what I want to be sensitive to is I'm not talking about necessarily going and spending thousands of dollars, going really far. I am talking about what we can gain when we spend uninterrupted time with our family for a day or two or 5 or 6 on end that we don't normally gain during the hustle and bustle of our lives. And it might be that you just go camp out. It may be that you go to a nearby lake and you go fishing for a day, or it may be that you do something really simple and low key. There may be a town nearby that you drive an hour to, and it's got some fun restaurants or a cool, kids park or something like that. So it doesn't have to be elaborate or even costly. It's going to cost you time for sure. And that's the commodity that most dads have even less of. We may have limited money, but man, we have super limited time. And so what I want to do is I want to just share and kick around with you some ideas around what do we get? What are some of the benefits that we get when we do carve out time for family vacation? Some are obvious and you'll be like, no, duh. Some are a little more hidden and tucked away mentally and emotionally. And I just want to explore that topic today because I think as I look back over my life since I heard that comment, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, we have really tried to prioritize family vacations, even to the point where I come back and there are still things in my house I need to fix. It's like I should have probably taken a week to fix my back bathroom that it just is bugging me, like it's on my mind. But we shelved that and we took some time away as a family. And I just want to encourage dads to do that in some form or fashion. It doesn't have to be elaborate, doesn't have to be costly, but because they are fresh in my mind, please forgive me for probably an over-reliance on anecdotes from New York City.
I think you explained that well, man. Everybody understands. I think it's a wise kind of note of caution to not go too far down one path that you just experienced. I'm curious, did you think of this idea while you were in New York? Like to talk about this, and then the other. On the same kind of note is like we understand, guys, that there are dads out there who are, you got 2 jobs and you're like, man, I would love to have a week off. Sure. I thought about the situation where there's been divorce and, you're just thankful to get your weekend. And even then it's like, can sometimes be cut short. So we definitely want to remember that there are all kinds of circumstances out there. I think the point is, as much as possible as a dad, let's find ways and focus on the time of investing in your relationship with your kids that you can't do on just the normal day-to-day hustle bustle back and forth. And in those kind of normal, in those times where you somehow air quote kind of get away, that you've got to plan that. And I think there's an element of like, what do you not do that I'm curious to think through. It's obvious to me. What comes to mind is to not pick up your phone a lot, like find a way to to leave devices out of the situation as much as possible. Don't bring work with you if you've got some free time. I'm saying the time factor, like you just said, it doesn't have to be about a choice between replacing the refrigerator or spending money on time away. You can get creative, and the point is investing in time with your family.
I even had a guy who had emailed me just for a reference point. So we left on a Thursday, and he had emailed me on a Tuesday or Wednesday. And I didn't get to his email until I left for vacation. And so then by Monday, he had texted me and a few other guys. There was a loop of us. And he was like, "Hey, man, how come I got an answer to my email?" And all I texted him back was, "On family vacation, we'll address this next week." And I wasn't trying to be a jerk or be like put offish, but what he wasn't asking for a heart transplant. Like what he needed was not immediate.
Yeah.
But he just wanted to make sure we all got the email. I'm like, "Got it. We'll respond when I get back." And you know what? It would have taken me probably 10 minutes to actually look at my email, respond as he wanted. But even those 10 minutes, I just chose not to do those while I was on vacation. And I'll bet you on 7 days, I probably spent an aggregate of 45 minutes to maybe an hour doing anything work related.
Yeah.
I really didn't.
Good for you.
And part of that's because I got a great family. I got an amazing wife. I love spending time with them. For me, vacation's not a drag. It's hard sometimes because when you're trying to keep your eye on your kid in Times Square, and there's like 8 billion people and that can be a little stressful. I'm not saying it wasn't stressful, but I'm saying even those parts I enjoyed, they were a lot of fun. But to your point, I don't think I look at a verse like Proverbs 23, 4 and 5. And part of what that stretch says is don't wear yourself out to get rich. And I want to talk about that verse in light of vacations, because some guy listening to this show is going to say, "Hey, I'm just too important at my job. I've got too much going on at work to take a vacation. There's just too much." And there may be scenarios where that's real for a season. That's true for a season.
Right.
However, if that's been true for you for like 5 years, guess what? Right. It's really not work that's telling you that. That's probably you telling you that. And I want to encourage that guy to say, "Hey, man, there's a very limited amount of time. I'm only going to have an 8-year-old traveling with me on vacation for a very small window of time. And I want to catch him as soon as I can." Even my older boys, as an example, one day they wanted to go do a particular thing in the city. And we were staying on the Jersey side. So if you know anything about New York, that's a commute. You got to get on a bus, you got to catch a train. There's some things you got to do to get to Battery Park area or the financial district in New York. And it's a legit commute, but we let our 2 older boys go do it. We're like, "Hey, man, you're going to leave now, be home for dinner." That's the idea. And they were gone 6-7 hours, and they had to navigate buses. They had to navigate trains.
Yeah,
they had
awesome. Never done it before.
Not my older son had done a little bit of that because he's already in college and he lives outside Chicago. So he's had more travel experience. But them together, man, I didn't worry about them for a minute, but that was an experience. I go back to this, don't wear yourself out to get rich idea. Is the idea that, I probably could have taken that week and went and done more work or made more money at my job. However, that experience of letting my kids go kind of figure a big city out and be brothers together and have to support each other and watch each other's back and that kind of thing, they're just not going to get that, around the house. And so there are times when there's opportunities we can only grab hold of when we're in a foreign place or when we're in a different kind of place. And it's a good growing up opportunity for your kids. So even my 8 and 12-year-old wanted to experience a certain thing with them. And then my older boys, 19 and 21, wanted to experience different things with them and let them experience things. And so just taking that time off, here's one thing it tells your family. It tells your family, I'm going to prioritize you over my work. And I might even miss a promotion over this, or I might miss a certain amount of income over this, but man, I've got to find some time to spend it with my family in a dedicated way. Now, again, I know there's lots of scenarios where guys may or may not be in that position right this split second as they're listening to it, but it may be something you need to build toward for the next 6 or 9 months or a year to be able to find that break time. Or maybe it's just a long weekend. Maybe it's a Friday off and it's a 2-nighter and you're going to that nearby state park and you're going to camp or something. But there were adventure moments that our kids could go take and learn and grow and mature that we probably couldn't have done if we'd stayed home.
Yeah, the environment matters. You know, you changed the environment and you got to see a different side of your kids and they got to see a different side of you because things around you had changed. So it was like, good to be together outside of your normal day to day. As we're recording this, one of my key guys on the team is on vacation this week. You know, as we approach kind of this time frame of school is about to go back into session for a lot of people, vacations have been we've seen a peak of vacations at work. And right now Derek is out. He's a key person on the team. And I've seen one email from him this week and I'm super proud that he was able to do that. He's with his family and they're hopefully having a great time and he needed time away.
Yeah.
And so, around himself, he kind of propped up some process and certain people to handle different things, me, included. And it's been noteworthy to me to see how many people have said something to me about, yeah, Derek is, wow, he is totally gone. Like he is out. And so people are watching,
Yeah.
and so especially if you're in a role at work as a leader, people are watching and you can set a tone that makes it okay for in our case, other dads who may be, in your work environment, to go, okay, he did it right. He made sure things were in place ahead of time. He had some backup plans, some contingencies, and so now it makes it a more healthy environment, I think, for them down the road when it comes their turn. So I'm super proud of Derek and I think the effect that it's had on his work team, much less his family.
Yeah.
Sort of setting that Proverbs 23, 4-5, don't wear yourself out to get rich scripture. It's not the most important thing in the world, your family is.
Well, and to your point about the boss really driving the attitude on the team, if you set that example, it matters. So I remember one time I was at a team meeting in Boston when I worked for a company that was headquartered in France. And man, Europeans know how to vacate. Like they are amazing. I'm talking like, I remember bumping into one of my colleagues one time and I said, hey, can I call you on this time? He goes, oh no, we will be out of the office. And I said, for how long? And he said, oh, about a month. And I'm like, what? And so literally their whole office shut down for like July. It wasn't like and they know how to vacate. And so at one point, my boss, Alexi, and I were in Boston and we're going through the line at a cafeteria. This has been a long time ago, but I remember clearly he goes, hey, by the way, he goes, where is Kevin? And I said, Kevin is on vacation. And Alexi goes, good. Then at least he has a good excuse not to be at the team meeting.
All
and
right.
we went on like there was nothing. There was no, and it was beautiful because it was just another good reminder that the big boss, he was senior vice president. The big boss was setting a tone that, there's good reasons to not be at the team meeting and bad reasons. And the good reason is vacation. That's a good reason. And you may work at a place where that's not the prevailing, attitude, but I hope you do. And I hope if you're the boss, you're setting that, that pace.
So listen,
go ahead.
While you're in New York, what'd you learn? What'd you think about?
That is a great question. I thought it's going to sound really dumb. I thought a lot about logistics, and you're going to laugh because I was kind of not in charge, but I was the guy who was saying, okay, I want to make sure we hit these 4 or 5 or 6 things. And we did have some scheduled environments, like moments, like we had a Broadway show, we had a trip to the Statue of Liberty. So we had some things that did have a fixed time and you had to be a certain place at a certain time.
Is that your MO on vacation? I've got a really good buddy that is like, I just want to go, come on, bro. We're at the beach. No, I do not want to do this agenda.
It totally depends. Oh my goodness. I know my wife is an avid podcast listener. to this show, and I gotta make sure what I say is so pure and so honest, because she's gonna let me know if I get off track here. Yes, I
So
tend to
you're
be
that guy?
I'm the planner, and I'm the soak it all out. Now, what I'm not is, here's what I'm not. And April, if you're listening, I hope this is accurate. What I'm not is, I'm not the over scheduler. In other words, I don't say we're getting up at 7, we're on the train by 7:30, we're not coming home to midnight. Like, I'm not trying to create these 15-hour days so we can quote unquote cram it all in.
Mm-hmm.
What I am trying to do is, and again, I apologize before, I won't do it again, but forgive me for all the New York references. Because New York is such a big city, and because there's so much to do, it helps if you map things out that are geographically connected, right? So for example, if you're going to do the Statue of Liberty, that's also the day you should walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. Like, if you want to do those two things, do them on the same day, because they're pretty close to each other and you can walk between them without a whole lot of trouble. And so that was the thing that I did the first night we got there. I got a map in my iPad. I snapped a picture of the New York City, in Google Maps, and then I circled areas of town, and then I numbered them, and I said, okay, here's what we're doing on Saturday. Here's what we're doing on Sunday. Now that's me for sure. In fact, at one point, my wife sat down next to me in our Airbnb and goes, "You like doing this, don't you?" And I have like the map in front of me, and I have my pen, and I'm like, "Yes, I do actually."
Yeah, I agree. So far, so good. So far, so good.
But I would say it's not that we spent every day going breakneck till midnight.
Sounds like it, because you said 50 something miles, but yeah,
well,
go ahead.
Golly, we did have some days.
I'm trying to keep him on track.
Ooh,
April.
baby,
to the truth. Stick to the truth.
Well, and that included about 3 extra miles, because my son Titus kept leaving. He found a stick. Okay, I'm not kidding. He literally found a small stick that he liked so much, but he kept leaving it places. And so we doubled back. I remember at one point we stopped, and I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, I left my stick back there, and it was like, I don't know, 1/10 of a mile back down this road." And I said, "No problem, man. Timothy will run and get it." And so I have one of his brothers, Timothy, go run and get Titus's stick. So we probably only,
that's good patience, man. I would have been like, "Well, we'll find you a different stick."
We probably we walked 11 miles, but we probably only made 9 miles of progress, because we spent 2 miles doubling back for the stick. But I would say, yes, I'm definitely the planner guy. I like that whole process. For me, it's fun. I've always liked maps. If I go to an amusement park and you can walk in the door and get a map, my wife would crack up, because she's like, "Oh, give Kent the map. In fact, give him an extra one, because if he loses it, he won't know what to do." And so I do like the map. I enjoy that whole process. I think it's because I'm so short, I can't see over people's heads, and I always want to be able to see from above. Something about a map from above, and the height problem that I have.
Everybody else walked 50 miles. How much did you walk?
I probably walked 67.5 due to the
we're
length
for
of
counting
my legs.
steps. For counting steps.
Same distance, but a lot more steps. But you did say something a minute ago that I think is true about vacations. April and I have done this for years, where we'll take our kids to the beach, right? And we're sitting there at the beach, trying to keep them from eating the sand, like when they're little babies, and trying to keep them from getting sunburnt to death. Right. And it's like, and we look at each other sometimes and go, why do people call this a vacation?
Right.
Why is it called a vacation?
Right. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
I think I need an extra few days at home to recover from my vacation. And to that point, you mentioned the word patience a minute ago. Absolutely. I think no matter what, whether you're going on an easy, kind of laid back type vacation, or you're going on a more high octane go vacation, there's ample opportunities to develop patience, big time. I think of the verse, Ephesians 4:2, it says, "Be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love." Because when you're traveling with your family, and everybody has different preferences and different desires, and as I mentioned before, Titus was always going. He was always a step ahead of us. And you got to go, we board the Liberty Island ferry with 250 other people through a gate that holds one person at a time, and it takes forever, and you're in the 95-degree heat. One time we were trying to go across the Lincoln Tunnel, which should be about a 10-minute ride or 15 max, and it took an hour and 15 minutes because of the traffic getting into the tunnel. And so you end up having ample opportunities on vacation to develop patience with one another as you all have different
Yeah.
speed, different MOs, but also just with your environment and with not knowing my way around. I'm not a New York travel expert. I had a lot I had to learn on the ground. Thankfully, my niece and nephew actually were 9-10 months ahead of us. So they've been there for a while and they knew the train system better than we did and told us some secrets and all that. So bottom line is, I think as a dad, when we put ourselves in those uncomfortable positions or in places we don't know as much, we do have an opportunity to develop patience, or even as Romans 12 says it, Romans 12:10, be devoted to one another in love, honor one another above yourselves. There's ways to say, well, I'd rather have some more pizza, but I know my family's kind of pizzaed out. So we're going to go and eat at a different place today. And let them kind of vote in and weigh in more heavy than me. Those kind of things are things that I still am a massive work in progress. My family has to tolerate the fact that I really want to get to the airport early. Like we have this running joke about who's going to miss a flight because it won't be me. But but it might be other people in my family. And I always want to get there early. And my family has had to learn to be patient with me because it's so funny. As we walked into the LaGuardia airport yesterday, we had about 2 hours to get through security. I wanted 2.5, and there was like a billion people in the line at security.
Oh boy.
And my wife just said, as soon as we walked in the door, she just goes, "Hey, don't worry. We're going to get through security. You can let your blood pressure come down." Because the minute we walked in, I saw those people.
Mm-hmm.
So we took advantage of the fact that we were traveling with an 8-year-old, and we asked the lady if we could go through the family assist line. We were through security in 10 minutes. Bro, for real. I sort of feel bad about that.
Right. No.
But not entirely. But not entirely.
That's good. You made me think of something when you were talking about being patient and putting other people in your family, in your case, or in vacation case, put their needs first. I'm not proud to admit it, but there was a time in my life when the girls were younger and vacation was a lot of work, and I could kind of feel a little bit like work was an escape. Maybe, even from the kind of the day to day or the night times, it was just a lot going on. I feel I truly mean this with all your children, and my wife's mom and dad the same way. They had 6 kids. Don't know how you pull that off. And vacation can be real trying. If you've got tight quarters and everybody's all in one place and people are sharing beds and they're not used to it, and maybe not, you're not at home, so not everything works the same way as what you are used to. I have found myself in the past being like, hey, I need to make a few phone calls. During vacation, I'm going to go find at the time, like a library or a coffee shop or something like that. And I was like, hey, I've really got to get something done. And I'm like, what a jerk move that was at the time. What I was really doing was getting away and coming up with something to focus on outside of being there with everybody. So, we're all human. I did it. Not proud of it, but it underscores
it's like the movie.
point.
It's like the movie Inception. You were doing a vacation inside of a vacation.
I mean, sorta. Yeah,
Sorta?
it was like
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. Super important. I'll tell you all about it, but it's just a lot. I'll be back in a couple hours, sipping my coffee on the laptop, making a phone call.
Right.
What a jerk.
Well, one of the ways we've survived vacations is I have the most efficient and industrious and productive wife. And so like literally we're at this Airbnb and we load in all of our luggage, and within 30 minutes, the kitchen looks like we live there, and all of our stuff is in drawers or hanging on a coat hanger thing, very neat and orderly, because my wife knows how to move in. Like she moves in, we got snacks, we're rocking and rolling.
Unpacks.
And she's just like that, man. She's amazing. And so one of the ways we've actually kept some degree of sanity on vacations is because she is so talented and efficient that we move in well and we get out efficiently.
Sounds like you guys know how to vacate well. That's good.
Well, we've been fortunate for a long time. We had a place to vacation that was free.
Dude, same here. Yeah, my mom had a
Yeah,
place at the beach, and it was
right.
just so thankful. It was
We
free.
haven't been there in quite a while for just families almost outgrown it, almost quite frankly. When you take 6 or 8 people anywhere, you need to have a different kind of landing place. But all that to say, we went one place over and over again, and it was super affordable, right? You drive there and you're spending gas to get there, you spend nothing to stay there. And that was a big deal. I don't know where we would have, I don't know if we would have had as much vacation experience, given, the fact that I've never made, tons and tons of money. But all that to say, that's been a huge blessing, is if you have a place where it's either a family member or a friend that you can get away to for, a few days or a week. And we've done that a few times, which has made it more efficient.
I had a really special time with Olivia on one hand and with Abigail on 2 separate trips that did not cost much. One was camping. We would go to a place nearby, and I would maybe clock out a little early on a Friday and then come back on Sunday. Not a whole heck of a lot of time, but hearing them now talk about it was memorable. It was work, setting everything up and bringing the food and getting it all that. But you can when you unplug like that, you can really spend some time together. And it was walking through the woods. It was playing around with a fishing pole. I wouldn't call us fishing, but it was just kind of hanging out at a campfire. Once Abigail and I took a trip to the Dominican, because Bowen Tishner and his wife Lindsay and their family lived there. They were missionaries down there, and he was setting up some water filtration stations. And so we got to go to basically a free, safe place and go around with Abigail, and I were going around kind of village to village with Bowen, and he could speak the language. He knew everybody. He was the water guy. And so it was, I'm saying that because it wasn't like she and I were on a mission group where kids went this way, adults went the other, and you do different things and then see each other in passing. I mean, we shared a little bedroom, and, we're in the car together the whole time. And in the case of one camping trip, Olivia and I took for 5 days on the Appalachian Trail, just she and I, and, again, really unplugged, and you just walking along like that all day together. You just talk about everything.
Yeah.
And neither was very expensive. And frankly, neither took all that much time if you plan it right, a Thursday, Friday off kind of thing, and get back in time for work. So back to the original point of time as an investment in our relationships within our family, vacation is good for you, Dad. It's good to be away from your day to day. It's good to change your environment. It's healthy for your own mental health. If you can pull it off and have the right work environment to get people to back you up, and that's reciprocal. Hey, do this for me this time, and when you take your vacation, I got your back. And help each other out of that in that way. But I would say buying the refrigerator, upgrading your fridge 2 weeks later, you're going to be like, yeah, I do like this fridge. It's nicer, but the vacation memories and the time that you spent together versus that, as just a, random analogy, it's going to be way more meaningful, and you will have strengthened, I think, your family versus the other.
Well, I forgot you and I had that in common, in that we went to the Dominican to see Bowen and Lindsay as well.
Okay.
We took, when our boys were like 6, 8, and 10, something like that, our older ones, we took all 3 of them and went down. And I remember Jonathan, my youngest at the time, before we had Timothy and Titus come along, Jonathan was going through the airport in the Dominican, saying "Hola, hola" to everybody. Like, this is one Spanish word that he learned. I remember that really well. And to your point, I think it's that as a family, there are certain things that are going to create like the foundation of your family. And that should be the Lord and Jesus. Like, that's, I'm not trying to say that vacations are any kind of like a foundation. What they do, though, is they create memories It's almost like working out. The minute you're working out, it's actually not necessarily all that fun. It's a lot of work. But what you get later is you get the benefit of stronger muscles or better heart. There's the benefits that carry on after you work out, which is the reason you work out. You don't necessarily work out for the hour of pain you have or the hour of trouble. You work out for that benefit later. And vacations are a little bit like that, or time away, time off is a little bit like that, where we still talk about stories from vacations that were 3 and 5 and 10, 15 years ago as a family. And those create a common language and a common set of experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. Yep.
And it's almost foundational. There's a part of your family where you go, oh, remember that time. And then unexpected things happen. You bump into random things. And I just want to encourage a dad listening who is kind of on the fence about whether he should take that vacation or upgrade the fridge. Or, and I know you probably need a working fridge. I'm not saying don't get a fridge, but I think that we can just become so locked in. We become so locked into our day-to-day grind, into our jobs, and to our work, that we think escaping it or getting away from it for a few days or a week or so is somehow evil or wrong or problematic. And I just want to encourage a dad to take the liberty to vacate, like take the joy and in getting away for a bit with your family. And it sends a signal to your family. It sends a very powerful signal to your family that when you're willing to do that, you're placing them above a lot of other things you could be doing. And I want to keep doing that for my family as long as I'm able, with time and energy and money to be able to do it. And so I just wanted to spend some time talking about that to the
good topic.
dad listening, and pull out a few of the things I think that we can benefit from when we vacate well. Yep. And I wanted to give my wife a big shout out because she powered through this particular vacation with less than ideal health. And so she was a trooper, man, hung in there. She is a
trooper.
And worked, she walked with same mileage as the rest of us, and was amazing. And so kudos to her for making them so special and fun for our boys. We had a great time. So Dad, if you're listening, don't go and get a brand new upgraded refrigerator. Instead, take that money, set it aside, and take your family on a long weekend somewhere or a vacation. You will be so grateful for the memories, and you will have woven one more thread through the fabric of your family that will last for decades to come.
Wow. I like that.
Like that?
Aren't you clever?
Well, hey, I don't.
Let's end on that note before you say something dumb.
I don't normally weave. Having said that.
Yeah, good point. Welcome back. Glad you did it. Glad you went away.
Yeah, it was a blast. Dad, we'll see you next week with another riveting episode of the Father on Purpose podcast. Hey, Dad, thank you for listening to today's show. If you found this episode helpful, remember, you can get all the content and show notes at manhoodjourney.org/podcast. And if you really liked it, please consider doing 3 things. Number 1, share this podcast with someone. You can hit the share button in your app, wherever you listen to podcasts, or just call a person up and tell them to listen in. Number 2, subscribe to this podcast so you get episodes automatically. That helps us as well to help dads find the show. You can do that through your favorite listening app, whatever that is. And finally, review this podcast. Leave us a review, good or bad, wherever you listen. Those reviews also help other dads find the show. You can always learn more about what we're up to at manhoodjourney.org or fatheronpurpose.org. We will see you next week.